Now, I recently heard a story about a guy that had over 100 trail cameras on 200 acres. That may be a little overkill. I don't know how many you have, but I don't have that many per acre or per 40 acres. And a question I get often is how many trail cameras is appropriate? What's that magic number per 40 or per acre? And like anything in whitetail habitat management, deer hunting, there's really not a lot of hard, fast rules. You know, for example, sometimes you hear 10% in food plots. Well, 10% is a rough, you know, middle point between probably 1% and 30%. You know, it really depends on the acreage, the size of the parcel, what's going on around it. And with cameras, it's no different. But there's one important concept that you need to know about trail cameras and how many you need on your property is the more defined and the more built your property is for deer hunting and for the manipulation of whitetail movement, the more defined that movement is on a daily basis, then the fewer cameras you need. And so 40 acres, a highly defined parcel where deer are bedding here, feeding here, and they're traveling in between, and you have several setups like that, then you can get away with having not very many cameras on your property. And most 40 acres that I go to, 4 to 6 cameras on a 40 acre would be, you know, 40 acre parcel would be appropriate. It's not to say that 6 or 8 wouldn't help either, but in terms of efficiency, what I find is that rarely do we get pictures of bucks that we don't recognize, because we have that definition of movement, and we have 5 or 6 cameras. We have cameras on mock scrapes. We have a lot of reason for a buck to visit those mock scrapes and get their picture taken. We're hiding our trail cameras. So with the definition of movement, with bucks centering on hitting those mock scrapes, and we're centering on a lot of travel cruising corridors, then what I find is we get a highly accurate census of our bucks on the property. Rarely do we get a picture of one that we don't recognize. I know last year on one camera location alone, I believe we had 34 bucks. A couple of those bucks weren't during the daylight, but most of those bucks on camera, there's over 30 bucks that we got just in one location. And so if you have highly defined movements, then the amount of cameras you need is not very high. I would say that translates on 80 acres to 6 to 8 cameras. When you get up to 200 acres or more, yeah, you might need 10 to 12 cameras, but I've had a parcel that we hunted for 12 years. We used 6 cameras, and we'd rotate those around during the season. But we used 6 cameras, and I believe we had a highly accurate census. But again, it was because we had highly defined movements from bedding to feeding, using water holes to mock scrapes. When you don't have that definition of movement on your property, when it's random, then those bucks that are coming through your land are completely random. A lot of times they're even at night. And so you really need a lot more cameras. And what's a safe number to say? It's really hard. I mean, you could use 30 on 200 acres. You could use 20. You know, maybe you would need 100 cameras on 200 acres. But the bottom line is, if you have random movements and you haven't set that up, you know, it's a tough hunt then. Pretty tough to know where the deer are on your land. And so it's hard to grow a herd. It's hard to protect bucks, attract them and hold them, and work on sex ratios and improve your land if it's not defined, if everything's random. So getting back, keep your parcels random, and you're gonna have to add a lot more trail cameras. If you have a highly defined parcel, then you'll find that for 40 acres, you can get away with 4 to 6 cameras. Now on my parcels that I hunt, I have 3 40-acre parcels around that. We actually have 4 cameras on this property, and then we have 6 on the other 2 on each parcel. So, you know, not a lot of cameras, and you can still have a lot of success in getting a real accurate census of the bucks around your land. And you have to make sure that parcel's defined. I offer a lot of tips and information on my YouTube channel and on my website of how to do that, and that's why I visit clients around the country too. So keep a highly defined parcel, and you'll enjoy a lot of camera success, trail cam success, with not a lot of trail cameras to manage and hold on your land.